To understand how modern microchips are made, we actually have to rewind all the way back to the 1820s. That's when Joseph Nicephore Niepce used a light-sensitive asphalt called bitumen to capture this grainy image of French rooftops. He proved that you could use light to transfer a physical pattern onto a surface. 2 centuries later, the semiconductor industry uses that exact same principle. The modern process begins by taking a perfectly polished slice of silicon and coating it with a highly sensitive chemical layer known as a photoresist. Engineers then project light through a patterned mask, essentially acting as a microscopic stencil. Where the light hits the wafer, the photoresist chemically weakens. That weakened material is washed away, leaving the exposed silicon underneath, ready to have specific circuit patterns etched right into it. By repeating this cycle of coating, exposing, and etching dozens of times, you get a completed wafer like this one, packed with hundreds of individual chips, each containing billions of nanoscopic transistors. The brains of our computers are forged through a highly analog photographic process pushed to the absolute atomic limit. But there is a hard rule in physics called Rayleigh's criterion. As this animated diagram illustrates, you cannot cleanly project a pattern that is substantially smaller than the wavelength of the light you're using to print it. The waves simply blur together. For decades, chipmakers used deep ultraviolet light, which has a wavelength of 193 nanometers. But by the 1990s, they hit a wall. As they kept shrinking the stencil to pack more computing power onto a single chip, the 193 nanometer light became too thick to resolve the details. Printing features smaller than 40 nanometers became physically impossible. To keep shrinking transistors, the industry proposed a massive, incredibly risky pivot, abandoning deep ultraviolet light entirely and moving to extreme ultraviolet, or EUV light, which has a microscopic wavelength of just 13.5 nanometers. Shifting from 193 to 13.5 nanometers meant throwing out decades of established engineering. It forced the industry to completely reinvent the lithography machine from scratch. The first major hurdle was the light itself. 13.5 nanometer EUV light is blocked by our atmosphere and doesn't naturally exist on Earth. Engineers had to figure out how to manufacture it inside the machine. The solution they found is called laser-produced plasma. Inside a vacuum chamber, a microscopic droplet of molten tin is fired through the air. A massive 25 kilowatt laser shoots 2 distinct pulses at it. The first pulse flattens it into a pancake shape to maximize surface area, and the second, more powerful pulse vaporizes it. This twin pulse vaporization happens 50,000 times every single second. The resulting plasma reaches 220,000 degrees Celsius, roughly 40 times hotter than the surface of the sun, emitting the precise 13.5 nanometer flash of EUV light they need. Generating this specific wavelength requires recreating the violent physics of a stellar core and doing it safely inside a factory operating 24 hours a day. But making the light was only the first problem. EUV light packs so much energy that it gets absorbed by almost everything it touches, including the air we breathe. To ensure the light actually survives the journey from the tin plasma to the silicon, the entire optical path and the wafer staging area have to be sealed inside a high vacuum chamber. Moving delicate silicon wafers through a vacuum is a mechanical nightmare. The system uses magnetic levitation to float the wafers through airlocks, checking and adjusting their position 20,000 times a second to maintain accuracy down to a fraction of a nanometer. And because vaporizing tin creates an explosive cloud of debris that would coat the machine, ASML floods the chamber with hydrogen gas, moving at hurricane speeds. The gas catches the tin particles and pumps them out, showing how solving one extreme physics problem immediately creates an entirely new engineering nightmare. That high absorption problem also ruined the lenses. Standard lithography machines use glass lenses to focus the light, but EUV light is absorbed by glass. Instead of looking through glass, engineers had to use mirrors. The German optics company Zeiss developed highly specialized Bragg reflectors. This diagram illustrates how they curve and guide the EUV light, bouncing it off a reflective mask and shrinking the pattern with each successive bounce until it perfectly hits the wafer. Because a normal mirror would just absorb the EUV light too, these reflectors are built from dozens of alternating nanometer-thin layers of silicon and molybdenum, carefully designed to bounce the light back. They are polished to an atomic level of smoothness. If you took one of these mirrors and scaled it up to the size of Germany, the tallest bump on its entire surface would be less than a millimeter high. The machine that holds all of this together is roughly the size of a double-decker bus, contains over 100,000 highly specialized parts, and costs upward of $200 million per unit. While the early prototypes in the 1990s struggled to print anything efficiently, turning EUV from a physics experiment into a commercial reality took decades of funding. It ultimately required coordinating a massive global supply chain of over 5,000 separate companies. And they are already pushing the limits again. To capture even finer details, ASML is introducing high-NA systems. This diagram compares the standard 0.33 numerical aperture light cone with the newer, wider 0.55 cone. By pulling in light from a wider angle, this upgrade pushes chip manufacturing past the nanometer scale entirely. The new logic nodes are now measured in angstroms, pushing feature sizes below 2 nanometers. The EUV lithography machine is a monument to human persistence. It proves that with enough capital, collaboration, and sheer stubbornness, we can bend the most extreme laws of physics to keep the digital age moving forward.